Up next on End of the Day Beer Review, we're going to be looking at Poor Decisions. This is a Thin Man and Lervig collaboration. It's a bourbon barrel-aged stout coming in at 15.32 ABV. Coming up next, check it out. Three, two, one. Hi, it's Rich and welcome to the Day Beer Review. And today we're going to be looking at a couple of really special beers. So this video might go a little bit long, but we are looking at Poor Decisions. This is a Thin Man and Lervig collaboration. It's a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout, and it says brewed and bottled by Thin Man Brewing of Buffalo, 184 Chandler Street, Buffalo, New York. Now, I've been to Buffalo a couple times. I have never been to this brewery. But what I thought was interesting, I actually didn't get it in Buffalo either. I got it in Larchmont, New York, at a place that I've mentioned before called the Chico's. They always have interesting larger bottles. Now, this bottle was, I want to say, about $20. It was aged for a full year in Buffalo Trace barrels. And since it is a bourbon barrel aged stout, and I do have a bottle of Buffalo Trace here, I did pour some so we could do a little tasting of the base spirit as well as the beer itself. Now, Buffalo Trace online, they say it goes for about $29 a bottle. Here in New York on Long Island, if you can find it, the lowest price I've seen it for is just about $60 a bottle out the door. But I've also seen it in other places, particularly like shore cities down in Jersey, where it's been 100 or 150 a bottle. So, you know, this is one of the beers. This is one of those bourbons that some people find very hard to get. Some people find it more expensive than it is, you know, supposed to be for compared to what manufacturers is. Manufacturer says this should be $26.99, which if you could get this regularly at $26.99 would be a tremendous value. The bourbon itself, sort of a lighter color than some of the other bourbons we've looked at here. Probably not quite as old. And I don't think there's an age statement on this. Let's see, it says Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, okay. And it says, the ancient paths of countless buffaloes led America's westward. Explorers, pioneers. All right, we're gonna forget it. It just says there's a long, I'm assuming this is the lore of the Buffalo Trace. I'm just not gonna read that for the camera. It says Buffalo Trace Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 45% ABV, 190 proof, distilled and aged and bottled at Buffalo Trace in Franklin County, Kentucky. You know, I like Buffalo Trace whiskey. I think it's great. I don't ever see myself going down to Kentucky on the whiskey trail. I think I'll stay in New York in the Northeast and just pay the extra money. Not to mention, there's a lot of good bourbon out there that doesn't have to come from Buffalo Trace, although I am a big fan of Buffalo Trace. And I don't just mean this, I mean like the Eagle Rare, the Blantons, the E.H. Taylor. It's all very good. All right, so first things first, I let this sit for about 10 minutes on its side to sort of bleed off some of the ethanol. And what I'm getting from this is some caramel, a little bit of vanilla, not overwhelming vanilla, but some. It's a very sweet nose on this particular whiskey. And it really does smell nice. Now at 90 proof, it's not gonna like blow you out of the water, but it's also, you know, it's a significant amount of alcohol and much higher than the beer, obviously, than, you know, the beer that we're gonna be looking at that was aged in its barrel. So let's give it a taste. Now, to me, Buffalo Trace, you know, their base spirit, some vanilla, some caramel, some burnt sugar. To me, it's very sweet. It's not particularly hot at 90 proof. I mean, I've had some whiskeys that were up in the 125 proof, and even them, can be very smooth. This is a little hotter than some of the really high-end, like single barrel whiskeys I've had. But it's also very good. It's also a little drying on the palate. You know, that being said, goes down easy, very nice, really, really enjoyable. good legs on the glass as it goes through. Sorry, I sort of fogged that up. But I don't want to spend the whole time on the whiskey because realistically, this is much more of a beer channel than it is a whiskey channel. Now, they have actually sealed this particular bottle in wax, which I forgot to bring a knife down with me, so I used a stopper to sort of break the wax. And then we'll crack this bottle open. Let's see what we can see about it. I have really high expectations for this. I know I have had a lot of Goose Island bourbon barrel stouts. And you know, I've seen Wild Turkey on the labels and stuff like that. I don't remember ever seeing like a direct Buffalo Trace one, other than let's say like the Blanton's, you know, super special one. So, all right, the wax is off. Let's crack this open. And I forgot to bring a glass out for this one. We're gonna use a tulip glass for this. Let me give it a quick wipe. Much like every other massive, you know, like heavy ABV stout that I've had, you're not getting a ton of carbonation. There was a little bit of carbonation there when it opened up. Let's pour it. Oh, and it's thick. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, to use that term, viscous. A little more carbonation than I expected, actually. Oh my God, the nose is gorgeous. There's this sweet, almost like donutty smell to it. There's a lot of chocolate. There's some vanilla. There's also some char that I'm getting that I think might be the barrel. But this smells like a well-crafted pastry stout. And I have to tell you, like, that's what I was sort of expecting when I purchased it. Now, after I purchased it, I found out that it was aged in Buffalo Trace barrels, so I was sort of even more excited about it. But I'm getting a lot of that sweetness, a lot of that vanilla coming from the base spirit. Now, I want to make it clear, like the base spirit, I had 2 little sips of it, and you know, you have a nice burn, a nice warmth in the belly. For me, with a beer, I would like that beer to sort of, I don't want to say hide it, but at least that burn and that ethanol should not be the first thing I encounter. And on the nose, there's nothing. You would almost think this was some sort of like chocolate-ish type of beverage. But on the back end of the nose, behind the vanilla and the chocolate, you can also get just a hint of that maltiness that's coming out. All right, let's see what it tastes like. Wow. You know, I'm going to say it. This is the equal of any equilibrium pastry stout that I've had. And what do I mean by that? It's thick. It coats the mouth. Beginning of the tongue, you get this nice sweetness from it. The sweetness then sort of blossoms into this vanilla. And then as it goes down, sort of a chocolate. The sweetness is lovely, and honestly, paired with the whiskey itself, it cuts through some of that burn almost in like that dessertist fashion. This is a beautiful, beautiful beer. Oh wow. I have to tell you, I feel a little guilty that I opened this by myself. But you know what? I will probably seal this tonight with a pressurized cap and share it out with one of my friends tomorrow or the next day, because this is exceptionally good. A nice sweetness, a nice thickness. The flavor just lasts. The flavor of this beer is staying in my mouth longer than the flavor of the Buffalo Trace was staying in my mouth. So, I mean, it's got some longevity here. And the legs on it, it is definitely clinging to the glass as it goes around. But I mean, I have to say, even the maltiness on the back of it that sort of lets you know that it's a beer, as opposed to a dessert beverage, fits in so beautifully with the rest of the flavor profile here. This is outstanding. You know, like normally I save a ton of my praise for breweries like Equilibrium, like, you know, because they make a hell of a dessert stout, pastry stout, whatever it is they call it, or Goose Island in the past, because they've made these amazing bourbon barrel stouts. this is a beautiful mix of a bourbon barrel aged dessert stout that I would be, you know, not only would I look for this again, and I will, but I would absolutely share this out with friends. In fact, I'm going to share the rest of this bottle out with friends, but I am going to give myself just a little bit more, you know, for the picture, the thumbnail and everything, and, you know, because I really want to drink it. It's just, like I said, I feel guilty. Now, the greatest thing about this is this bottle is how big? What's the size on this? It actually doesn't say, but I mean, it looks comparable to, you know, a Goose Island bottle. And, you know, even though this traveled all the way down from Buffalo to Larchmont, which is 8 or 9 hours, this was only 20 bucks. You know, and I bought another one by them. This one might have actually been 17. So I think value for the money here is through the roof. And would I buy it again? Yes. And I would stick one in the fridge and I would hang on to it and see how it ages. This is excellent. And I'll tell you right now, I will definitely be looking into Thin Man and Lervig. Let's see, what's it say on the side of this? It says Lervig. I don't mean to mispronounce that. Also has some cute art here. You know, I'm what's stupid, and it shows people making poor decisions. I guess any beer could cause poor decisions, which is why, you know, you shouldn't drink the whole one of this. You should be sharing it with somebody. But this is exceptional. Let me say that again. Poor Decisions, a Thin Man and Lervig collaboration, brewed and bottled by Thin Man Brewery of Buffalo, New York. This is great. If you can get a hold of it, I definitely would. And I want to make it clear, they did not pay or give me this. I found this in Larchmont, New York. I picked it up, I bought it, and it is fantastic. And if I am in Larchmont in the next couple of weeks, I will hopefully grab another one of these because this is great. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you next time on a Day Beer Review. Cheers. Up next on the Day Beer Review, we're going to be looking at an interesting looking beer called Poor Decisions. And it says it is a Thin Man and Lervig collaboration. This is a bourbon barrel Imperial Stout coming in at 15.3. You know, it was going so well. And then I fucked it up. So let's try it again. 3, 2, 1. Up next on the Day Beer Review, we're going to be, boy, stuttering over your own words. 3, 2, 1. Up next on the Day Beer Review, we're going to be looking at Poor Decisions. This is a bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout. It is a Thin Man and Lervig collaboration, and it comes in at 15.32 ABV. Try to do that without the stop and stutter there, right? All right, we'll try one more time. 3, 2, 1.